I think I've somehow become the most popular Miraculous Ladybug power scaler on YouTube. An interesting turn of events, all things considered. It's always interesting to see what topics I wind up inadvertently having the most popular video addressing. And most people don't tend to be known for power scaling shows that they're as critical of as I am with Miraculous. But hey, people like it, and it leads to interesting scenarios. But with power scaling comes disagreements, as is the nature of trying to figure out who is stronger than who. And that comes with people trying to explain why they think I'm wrong. And that itself comes in all sorts of flavors. And an interesting one is accusations of favoritism, because this channel just has such an incredible bias in Miraculous's favor. I see and talk to other Miraculous scalers on occasion, and I observe how they scale the show. And my conclusion is that I'm actually pretty conservative with my scale. I mean, I haven't let Ladybug and Cat out of the town level physical strength range since season 1. Everyone has different standards for what does and doesn't count in power scaling. People can look at the exact same thing and come to completely different conclusions because of their perspectives. That's why this community is about debates and not simply just stating facts. So for this video, let's actually look into Miraculous's higher end scaling, or more accurately, highest end scaling. My scale does acknowledge that there are universal, multiversal, and even conceptual elements to the power system, but there are broader interpretations that I think could be worth looking into. It won't be all that different from the scales I've seen that get Naruto to universal, or Gojo to universal, or even Luffy to universal. All arguments I have heard, arguments I understand, arguments I don't believe, even a little. Anyway, let's discuss why all three of them get one-tapped by base Ladybug. Let the glaze begin. Most of this is just me talking about things I've seen other people say, but there is one argument I'm going to present here that is something I came up with on my own. See if you can figure out what it is. The first instance of a universal scale that can apply to Ladybug happens as early as Timebreaker, the 4th, 5th, or 16th episode depending on who you ask. In it, the titular villain displays the ability to skate back in time. She does this by absorbing energy from people, freezing them in place, and making them disappear from existence. Moving through time in this manner would qualify for immeasurable speed. Now, the argument could be made that this so-called immeasurable speed is actually just a hack's ability, but Timebreaker time travels by speeding up as she skates, and she explicitly says that stealing energy the way she does has the effect of making her move faster. This wouldn't directly translate to Ladybug and Cat though, because Timebreaker does need to build up to that immeasurable speed. But it does imply that they're a step below that at infinite speed. Outside of when she's really built up the speed to go back in time, she's actually a little slower than them at all the times they fight, even when she has enough energy to time travel. This is further shown when looking at the burrow. It's a pocket dimension that essentially exists outside the flow of space and time, capable of looking into different space-times that flow from the timeline, created by the rabbit Miraculous, which is capable of altering how time works and the flow of causality for whoever is wielding it. We even see that Alex can have conversations with herself from throughout the timeline while they hang out in the burrow. A further show of it breaking the rules is the fact that the characters can basically treat any part of it like the ground because space and its laws aren't really that relevant within it. The fact that the characters can move unimpeded outside of time also implies that they have infinite speed in base form and even human form, especially considering they can quickly get from one end of it to another when they need to find specific portals. Somehow, we are not done. As of season 5, we know that the Kwami that are the source of the characters' powers do represent their existence on a conceptual, multiversal level, making them extremely powerful. This is mostly consistent with the fact that Sass and Kalki were able to damage time and space when they used their powers unrestricted. But beyond that, we see that Ladybug's Miraculous Ladybug ability can fix such damage. It does this by physically moving a swarm of ladybugs through everything it wants to fix, meaning that it would have to have at least infinite speed to affect the whole universe, with potential immeasurable speed for when it does the same thing to time. This could imply that Miraculous abilities have infinite attack speed, But we don't actually have to get into that, especially considering we know that Ladybug and Black Cat are equally powerful. Let's discuss the Black Cat. Cataclysm has actually been shown to be comparable to the Miraculous Ladybug. Chat uses it as the base for his Miraculous Cat Noir ability that is pretty much the same thing, but aimed at destroying things. Despite this, the characters are shown to be able to react to and observe the swarm of destruction that should be moving at infinite speeds, and Reina Rouge was even able to close her eyes in preparation for it hitting her. Cataclysm is basically the destructive power of the universe, powered by the destructive half of a being that can destroy the universe and even other timelines, though we will get to that shortly. Infinite speed is not outside the realm of possibility. Plus, Chat Noir shows that he can actually move as fast as Cataclysm can destroy something. In the Season 6 premiere, after Climatic Queen throws a train at him, he cataclysms the front, goes through the hole it makes, then, seemingly while hitting the train with more cataclysms from the inside, outruns the destruction and jumps out the back of the train. Okay, let's take a step back. This is an impressive feat even outside the context of this video because we know that Cataclysm can spread across objects several times bigger than the Earth in at least 4 seconds. Purely off eyeballing this without any complicated calculations, I'm pretty sure pulling this off would require him to run up the train at like a quarter the speed of light. Back to the video. Even if beyond all that you think there isn't really any reason to scale Cataclysm's speed to that of the Miraculous Ladybug, characters have been able to watch and react to the Ladybugs as well. So that's pretty much all of the arguments for infinite speed being the standard speed of the characters, with the potential to get all the way into immeasurable speeds. Now, let's talk power. To start with, let's talk about the cosmology of Miraculous Ladybug. It has a multiverse made up of at least billions of universes. Monarch states that there are an infinite number of them in the Paris special, but he may not be reliable, though the Kwami do not attempt to correct him if he's wrong, and they are very willing to do so. I was going to include the Action comics, but their canonicity is questionable after they stopped being published, and their statement that Tiki was the first Kwami is contradicted by Gimme's existence, which makes the statement that the Kwami are formed from concepts unreliable. Fortunately, the show itself confirms this, as the Kwami explicitly say they represent concepts, and a separate form of that concept cannot exist outside of them. On top of that, Thomas Astruc, the creator, in reference to being asked if Tiki was killed by Blanc, asked, "Can you kill a concept?" This does lead to some scaling miraculous heroes to, essentially, the level of concepts. Platonic concepts are usually scaled above dimensionality and are thus scaled to outerversal or even boundless, depending on which tiering system you're choosing to use, as the things within dimensionality are just taking part of the concept as a whole. They are particulars of that concept. This is an idea supported by the fact that the Kwami exist across all universes as one consciousness, though they don't talk about other universes while interacting within a specific one. This would mean that when the characters survive getting hit by the Tiger Miraculous, powered by the concept of elation, they are tanking at least low outerversal blows. Other Kwami concepts include things like perfection, freedom, and action. But this is about Ladybug specifically, so the concept she's associated with is creation, which is a platonic concept above everything that can be created. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not 100% confident in my reading on this. I'm sure someone more versed in conceptual scaling can better explain it, but I couldn't make this video without acknowledging that some do scale Ladybug into boundless. Let's get back to the universes. All of that concept talk is important to note because Gimme is the Kwami of reality. It describes itself as everything that was, is, and will be. It's the most powerful being in the series, and it would be more powerful than every other Kwami, as existing in reality is the baseline for everything. It is all of reality throughout all of time, personified into one being. Like other Kwami, it essentially simultaneously exists in every universe. Each universe seems to operate under different rules and looks, ranging from 3D, 2D, and even being literal comic books. But we're just gonna focus on the Quantic universe, the universe most of this show is set in.
Alright, let's see. Shit! Hyacinth's down! Retreat! Oh damn it, we're losing her! Killed in action!
Gimme is divided most of the time between Tiki and Plague, the Kwame of creation and the Kwame of destruction. The Quantic universe operates a lot like you would expect a regular universe to, but it also has one important aspect to note. Its timeline essentially has every possibility of time happening simultaneously. While a lot of series do have examples of branching timelines, what most don't have is the Rabbit Miraculous, which allows all of those timelines to be accessed by one person. It doesn't only send you back and forth along the same timeline. You can visit other timelines with slight variations on your own, which exist as independent spacetimes. We know this because Blanc describes the burrow as the place where the possible streams of time meet, and Ladybug and the script refer to the portals as leading to separate spacetimes and spacetime continuums respectively. This means that one universe in the Miraculous multiverse essentially has an infinite number of alternate timelines that can be accessed through the power of the Rabbit Miraculous. We know she isn't accessing a different universe because Blanc's burrow power is limited to her universe, and the Rooster Miraculous can create portals to other universes, which it wouldn't be able to do if that was the power of another Miraculous. There's also the fact that the Chat Blanc episode only works if this is true. Chat Blanc largely takes place in a completely different timeline than the one we usually follow in the show. This explains how future Blancs can exist while undoing a version of the future where she would never have gotten her Miraculous in the first place. And in-universe clues like Chat Blanc Marinette having a completely different hairstyle support that it's different from the main timeline. Promotional material even described the hairstyle as coming straight out of an alternate reality. This is really significant because Chat Blanc was going to destroy all of those space-times at once. Compare the scrambling of the screens in this episode to the London special where the screens just go black, which is described as time coming to an end. In that special, Blanc is still able to go back to before the moment time ended. Here, there is no past for her to go to. The spacetimes became completely inaccessible. This isn't that crazy considering that Gimme is the embodiment of the past and future, and Plague, the source of Chat Noir's power, is their destructive half. So, Chat Blanc has the power to destroy an infinite number of spacetimes. This would make his AP infinite on a 4D level. This makes Chat Blanc at least 2A or Multiversal Plus in AP for destroying a countably infinite number of spacetimes. It would also potentially raise his attack speed to unquantifiable levels for being able to affect infinite spacetimes. But we're still not done. Based on this logic, Pixelator would exist in a lot of those timelines, creating pocket dimensions to imprison people. Now, I can't reliably prove this, but I have seen this image, allegedly from a novelization of the Pixelator episode, where the narrator describes the pocket dimensions Pixelator creates as endless. In that episode, there were like 19 of them. That would mean that Chat Noir in Season 1 was able to destroy several connected infinite dimensions with one Cataclysm, and Chat Blanc would have destroyed even more. And we know that they're separate because when Pixelator gets trapped in his own, all the ones that are destroyed are still seen being destroyed. A whole new one is created just to capture him. So yeah, if they are endless, then each one of Pixelator's blasts is creating an endless pocket dimension just for whoever he's capturing. Anyway, Season 1 Chat Noir destroyed several connected infinite dimensions, and Chat Blanc would destroy even more with his move. And we don't even know if the pocket dimensions within the Miracle Boxes, Feast, or Kwame Buster's Kwame Trap are also infinite.
Isn't it a bit cramped in there? Oh no! There's a whole parallel world inside. Oh no! Not that! Not again! It's the end of the world! That's what happens when someone makes a wish. The universe is destroyed and then entirely rebuilt.
Depending on how you choose to see cosmology within the detail of the show, and how you use that to scale, this could get as high as infinite 5D for destroying infinities within infinities. Infinitely. This has implications. For starters, Chat Blanc exists as a combination of Chat Noir's power and being akumatized by the Butterfly Miraculous. If you believe that any major part of Chat Blanc's power comes from the butterfly, that would mean pretty much every enemy Ladybug has fought is a potentially 4D multiversal threat, and she would scale accordingly in stats. If you think most of that power is Chat Noir's own, he has taken several hits from his own Cataclysm, which Asterisk insists was not weakened when it was stolen from him. And despite taking some damage, Chat Noir was still able to fight at an impressive capacity, displaying incredible endurance. This would also raise him and Ladybug to multiversal, in durability if nothing else. Ladybug breaking Chat Blanc's belt, which is part of the magical costume credited for their durability, could potentially also raise their physical strength scaling to match that durability. In conclusion, looking into Ladybug's stats using Miraculous' universal meta, she would be multiversal plus in durability, potentially also in strength, with potentially higher dimensionality than just 4D, with at least infinite speed. And the highest highball you could give her is immeasurable speed and outerversal to boundless strength and durability. I feel it's important to note that even with all of that, she's still weaker than the Kwami, as Thomas did basically say that Chat Blanc's power isn't enough to kill a concept. Now, let's talk about how I personally scale all of this. I believe basically everything I said about Chat Blanc is accurate. I subscribe to the idea that most of Chat Blanc's power is Chat Noir, so until the Butterfly Miraculous gets its own solidly multiversal feat, I don't scale the other villains to the giant Cataclysm. Also, I believe the show gives us enough reason to believe that the heroes just have a resistance to Cataclysm specifically, in the same way that sentient beings are affected completely differently from everything else. And Chat Noir himself has just even stronger resistance. We have seen that Cataclysm is fully capable of killing Miraculous wielders if the user isn't properly holding back. The Kwami are conceptual beings, but I don't automatically assume that raw power translates to the AP and stats for the holders unless the story gives me a reason to believe that's how its power system works. And Miraculous has not. I'd love to say that TV show versions of which are universal, but I know that I don't believe that, and that show has frankly given me more reason to believe it. Now for speed. Personally, I am extremely doubtful about spaces like the burrow and their whole outside of time thing in relation to power scaling. The way they're portrayed suggests that they do have their own unique flow of time, so I don't automatically confer infinite speed upon those who can move inside them without further confirmation. I'd pretty much have to say the same about characters from Loki when they're in the TVA, and I don't believe everyone in the MCU has infinite speed. In the burrow's defense, it does act more like a space outside of time than a few other examples of such things, like the TVA. But yeah, unless the show straight up confirms that there is no time within the burrow, no. Though knowing this show, I actually believe that they're fully capable of doing that. Regardless, creating it is still impressive and further contributes to the dimensional scaling of the Kwami. Despite the speed statement for Timebreaker, I do still believe her time travel ability is an ability and not just a function of pure speed. More likely, it seems that she just has to hit a certain speed before she actually starts accelerating through time. Does 88 miles per hour ring a bell? As for the Miraculous Ladybug and Cataclysm, honestly, I don't exactly have an argument for debunking it. Which probably makes sense considering it's the only thing in this video I personally came up with and I haven't had as much time to think about it. Maybe you could say that the moves get faster if what they're targeting is farther away. I guess I can't argue if you think it's a good enough scale after everything else I've described. Despite that, I do consider it just a massive outlier. I'm gonna need a second thing before I begin seriously entertaining the idea. But now I do have something I can throw at comic book fans if they get really annoying about their power scaling. This has been an interesting exercise in understanding the logic around this scaling, and it has been fun. But I still cap most of the verse on the high end of solar system level at best, and I still consider Ladybug's physical strength to be town level. Okay, maybe the part where she can break Chat Blanc's costume might change things. This can all change. We're in the middle of season 6 of at least 10, and there's a planned spin-off for Galactic Threats that seems like it's gonna further touch upon the multiverse as a concept. Honestly, anything can happen. I think it would only take like 6 or 7 well-placed sentences for me to accept this scale for Ladybug. What I've said here would apply to Gimme though, and that's just Gimme from the one universe. There are at least billions, potentially an infinite number of them. I even suspect that there is a form of Gimme that is all of them put together that exists on an even higher level. Wait, I think that's the Outerversal boundless thing I was talking about earlier. Yeah, they are probably stronger than your favorite characters. They're definitely stronger than all of my favorites put together. Shout out to my patrons and channel members, Skyman and Technopark. What did you think of all this? Have I changed your mind on how this show is scaled for the better or the worse? Did I miss something? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and if you really enjoyed this, hit the hype if it's less than a week old. Thank you, and good day.